before they looked at Google Maps? Did anyone? I see one person did. And when you look at Google Earth and you look at this, what you see is some beautiful green downland. What you see is a place which had 3 historic barns on it, skylark habitats, some rare habitats, and a beautiful piece of West Quantock's Head landscape which was used by the local community for many, many years. And all that, as you can see, whatever Google Earth thinks, none of that now exists. What exists instead is a very large scraped building site. And it's interesting that when we were first here, before this was built and before this happened, and we were occupying a barn on the site to try and prevent this from being built, they'd been given permission to clear the site before they had permission to actually build a power station. So this huge natural resource, they were given permission to destroy it, even though supposedly they didn't know if they could build the power station or not, which is unprecedented. And at the time when we occupied, several leading environmental commentators were in the national press saying we'd got it wrong and we should pull out because nuclear was the future and Hinkley was exciting and important for a low carbon future. And we are now at the point, 3 or 4 years later, where those same journalists are now in the papers saying, for God's sake, don't build Hinkley C, it's time to pull out. And it got to the point where even the day where the Financial Times, whose journalist has been ignoring us for the past 4 years, is now saying this is a bad idea and using all our arguments. And the Daily Telegraph has now said this is a national scandal. It's a white elephant. And it is a scandal, but that is a scandal which began all those years ago. The first scandal was giving permission to clear and destroy this natural habitat and 3 historic buildings without even knowing that they were going to build, supposedly. The second scandal was that they knew they were going to build because the whole process was rigged and the independent commission that looked at it didn't have to actually listen to the objections, they just had to make a decision of their own. The third scandal was that within that process, they didn't look at whether there was a credible waste management program in operation for the waste from this plant. Now, if you want to open a chip shop in Bridgewater, you have to have an absolutely credible waste management strategy for your chip oil. But if you want to open a nuclear power plant with nuclear waste that will last for hundreds of years, you don't have to yet have a waste management strategy. The next scandal was that, of course, it was all rubber stamped and actually the Secretary of State would give it the go-ahead anyway. The next scandal was that in order to persuade EDF to go ahead, because they still haven't committed to build this power station, don't forget, in order to get them to do it, the next scandal was that the energy price would be fixed for 35 years at double the current wholesale cost in order to subsidise EDF's profits for 35 years. At a time when already the electricity being produced by wind power is now cheaper than that energy will be for 35 years. That is a huge scandal. In a country where there is fuel poverty, people actually being condemned to pay a very high, artificially high bill for 35 years to keep EDF's profits up. And then EDF still wouldn't give the final commitment.